What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Mo Awesome here, and today's video is gonna be a little bit different. We actually have a product breakdown video for you guys. So we actually have two of the best action sport cameras on the market right now. We have the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro camera. This camera just came out a few days ago, and this is actually the brand new GoPro Hero 13 Black. This came out, I would say, a few weeks ago. So yeah, these are two of the best, newest action sport cameras on the market right now. If you guys have been following the channel, you know we do a lot of mountain bike content on here, and a lot of it focuses on our action cameras. We use these for a lot of footage. We're also not the best with tech. Me personally, I feel like I'm getting older by the day. Well, I am getting older by the day, and with that comes a little bit less tech savviness, and I feel like I need my cameras to be a little bit more user-friendly. So in this video, we're actually gonna take these two cameras. I'm gonna show you guys the differences between the two and tell you guys which one I prefer and also which one might be better for your application. We use a chest strap for basically all of the riding footage on this channel. So yeah, this is gonna be a chest strap. I'm gonna take both of these cameras. These are basically stock out of the box. I'm gonna change very little. I'm gonna make sure that they're both in their respective setting. So for stableness, you're actually gonna be using rock steady on this. And for stableness on this, we're just gonna have the hyper smooth. Once again, you guys, we're not messing with any color grading or any of that stuff. The footage for this video is gonna be straight out of these cameras, and these cameras, once again, are gonna be straight out of the box. We're not doing anything to it. So yeah, you guys can see for yourself which camera you prefer. And once again, you guys stay tuned because I'm gonna tell you guys which I prefer. So let's get into the riding footage. All right, so this is the DJI camera, and I have rock steady and ultra view on. I really do like the field of view on this. This is actually probably how we normally shoot most of our videos. And this is the GoPro. As you guys can tell, the GoPro I feel like has a little bit more vibrant colors right away, and you can actually see the tire tread marks on the trail. Now we're gonna switch back to the DJI. This is the DJI. As you can tell, just look at like the tire tread on the dirt. You can't really see it as much with this. However, with the GoPro, I feel like it puts a little bit of an emphasis, and yeah, that's a pretty interesting aspect. Now this is the DJI on the trail. We're gonna start moving a little bit so you guys are gonna be able to see the steadiness. Pretty steady, and I will say very impressed by it. Now this is the GoPro. I'm pretty used to the stabilization on GoPro because we use them all the time. I would say this is a slight improvement over the previous GoPro 12. Now this is the DJI, and yeah, the color's interesting. It's just very interesting out of the box. I do think the GoPro has a little bit more trail enhancement to it. However, the DJI stabilization, I mean, if you look at this, really good on this kind of smoother section of trail. And now we're gonna start getting into some chunks, so you're really gonna see the stabilization being put to the test. The DJI did really well on this. This is the GoPro. Once again, the color difference I feel like is the biggest difference. I feel like this is going to be like an Apple Android comparison. The GoPro, I really do like this color. I do know the sun is popping out a little bit more so on this lap. The stabilization though is pretty insane on the GoPro. Like, as you guys can tell, when we start coming into this chunk right here, that's where I really do think you notice a difference stabilization wise. I think the GoPro does have the edge when it comes to chunky stabilization. However, the DJI is very good. This is actually the DJI one right here. Yeah, very impressive stabilization, and the color I want to say is like a little bit more of a, I would say, like natural color to it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, because I feel like this is going to be a personal preference thing. We went through the chunky section there, and you guys can see the stabilization. This bottom section though is a real test of stabilization. So the DJI, what I notice is when you start getting into very chunky situations, camera's moving a bunch, I mean, it holds its own in comparison to the GoPro. Now this is the GoPro going through the chunk section, and once again, this is probably the chunkiest part of the test. I feel like the stabilization on this GoPro, I mean, it's pretty insane. The color, I feel like, is a little bit more subtle on the DJI as opposed to this stock GoPro footage. I feel like this is a little bit more, the trail features, I think, is really noticeable, like these ruts and the tire tread. And yeah, I feel like a little bit more emphasis on this, and the stabilization is really good on this GoPro. I feel like you get a little bit more of a warping effect from the edge on the GoPro as opposed to the DJI. Pay attention to the edges of the footage. I feel like the DJI does a very good job of staying very natural on there. But once again, I do think though that does affect the stabilization, where this GoPro footage, so if you guys look at the edges, I feel like you do have a little bit more warping on the edges. However, right here where it gets really chunky, I feel like the stabilization in the center of the frame is increased, and I think that's what leads to such good stabilization footage on the GoPro. The DJI once again holds its own, but that is something that I am noticing. All right, so we're heading up for lap number 2, and as you guys see with the DJI, I really do like the picture quality on this thing. Once again, I think it's crazy how good cameras are getting stock out of the box. This is going to be the GoPro on that climb, and once again, I feel like it's just two different picture profiles. I feel like the DJI, this is the DJI footage, just has a little bit more natural enhancement to light, so I feel like it just brightens the image a little bit more so. However, I also feel like the colors are a little bit more saturated from stock footage. We're actually going to transition to the GoPro one right here. This is the GoPro footage. Now, I mean, the clouds were just completely on the sun, so not as much light. However, I feel like this is really good test of the stabilization, because even with not that much light, that's normally when stabilization is going to be the worst performing. The GoPro is doing insanely well at low light stabilization. We're about to get into Chunky Rock Garden. This is the DJI. I feel like has a really good stabilization feel through this chunk. The only thing I noticed with the DJI is the stabilization is amazing up until you have like crazy intense chunk like down here, this bottom section. And then you'll start to notice a little bit kind of chaos with the stabilization. I think it's just getting slightly confused. Now, this is going to be the GoPro. And once again, you guys, much darker on this footage because the clouds were just not helping us out during this project. However, even with almost no light, like the sun was completely covered with clouds, you can tell the stabilization is actually insane. Like, I've never seen low light stabilization like this with the GoPro Hero 13. And I feel like it handles this kind of more intense chunk towards the bottom a little bit better than the DJI. However, swapping back to the DJI, as you guys can tell, man, I just feel like the image quality on the DJI, it just enhances it kind of right away, so you really don't have to do much editing to the footage at all. I feel like it's a very simple to use software, and here we're going to have a little bit of chunk up here. I mean, handles the stabilization very well through this little technical climb. Once again, low light conditions is normally where stabilization gets hit the most, but with this new GoPro 13, they really did dial the stabilization. Now we're going to be going up this little tech climb, so like really fast motions, and I feel like there's no blur, so yeah, huge shout out to the GoPro on that. Back to the DJI. Once again, you guys, I feel like every time I look at the DJI, I'm just pretty impressed by that picture quality. If you look at the sky though, the saturation in the DJI footage, I feel like that's the biggest difference. I feel like there is a little bit more saturation to colors. Now, this is the GoPro. As you guys can tell, that blue sky, I feel like it's a much more subtle profile with the GoPro. And yeah, I don't feel like it's as saturated. I think some people might appreciate that if you're looking for a little bit more of a natural look to the footage coming out of your camera. Now, this is actually going to be low light with the DJI because there wasn't much sun back here. And as you guys can tell, I feel like, yeah, you're starting to get a little bit of kind of not sharpness from the footage, like in that low light element. Now, I'll swap over the GoPro and see if there's any difference there. This is going to be the GoPro, same section. I feel like this is still going to be one of the areas where both cameras are probably going to struggle with, is like if there's no light at all, I feel like it's just tough to get like a sharp image from it. So yeah, I would say they're both do very well considering how little light we had during that time. However, that is something to note, is I feel like both are pretty equal when it comes to low light environment. Okay, so if you ever use your camera for just standard B-roll footage, not riding footage, this is going to be a test of that. So this is going to be the GoPro, and this is actually wide, so it's not the super view. I just want to kind of get rid of any warping on the side, just kind of see how it looks as like a traditional camera if you don't want to bring the big camera out on the trails. And as you guys can tell, I really do like the footage coming out of here. Once again, I keep using that word natural. I feel like that's how to describe GoPro footage. There's not too much enhancements to saturation or kind of like any weird thing going on with the colors. Swapping over to the DJI now, same shots. Now, once again, you guys, I keep going back to the differences in color profiles. I do feel like the GoPro has the edge in terms of natural. However, the DJI, I feel like it's a much more, I would say, enhanced color profile. And yeah, overall, I actually really do like how the DJI came out as well. I feel like both of them are very close when it comes to this. I feel like this isn't going to be like a deal breaker for either or one way or the other. Now we're testing out slow motion. So this is actually going to be the GoPro. This is going to be slow-mo 120, slow down 25%. Really do like the slow-mo of that. Let's try that one more time. This is another shot with the GoPro. And once again, you guys, I love the emphasis in the dirt, like the tire tread. I mean, you could even see like a snake print right there. And the slow-mo footage is so clean in this. I love 120 frames per second. Now swapping to the DJI. Once again, you guys, that is the saturation I think you're noticing with the colors. However, I mean, really good dynamic for that 120. I feel like there's a good amount of detail in those shots, not as much detail in the dirt. We're gonna try this one more time, another shot. And yeah, I feel like both are really good when it comes to slow motion. Now, let's also do a quick audio test. This is the GoPro test. So hyper smooth, I have the auto boost on. So this is gonna be the most stable footage coming out of this, as well as an audio test, because I'm gonna keep on talking even through the bumps. And man, I am so ready for winter. Finally coming to SoCal. How do I sound? Audio test on the GoPro, and then suspension test on this trail. This bike is really fun, by the way, guys. A little sneak peek into a review. Okay, this is an audio and a extremely stable test for the Rocksteady Plus on the DJI, as well as me talking consistently, so you can hear how audio sounds without any windscreen. This is purely the camera, and this is also purely braking bumps at this point in the season, so you guys can get a good look at what super bumpy looks like. Woo! And lastly, let's do a quick true low light test. So this is the GoPro Hero 13 Black. That's a bike that I haven't shown anyone. We're actually in Hawaii right now for these clips. We're celebrating our 1-year wedding anniversary, and as you guys can tell with the GoPro, low light still isn't necessarily its forte. However, switching over to the DJI, this is the impressive thing with the DJI, is its low light capabilities. As you guys can tell, I mean, this is the same conditions, the cameras are side by side. That's the bike you can see a little bit more, and that's our resort. Hawaii has been insane. This has actually been our first trip here ever, both Hannah and I. And yeah, once again, our 1-year wedding anniversary, it's been really awesome. But this bike, as you guys can tell, you guys can actually see it in this clip. More info on this soon. However, the GoPro Hero 13 low light on the balcony, as you guys can tell, not the greatest. But yeah, just want to point out those low light capabilities. Okay, so now that we've gone over a lot of that footage, let's talk about a few other things that I want to touch on both of these cameras before getting into which one I think I prefer. So the first thing is actually going to be how fast it comes to turn on. So I'm going to press both of them at the same time. This one's already recording. This just started recording. So obviously the DJI is gonna win that test, which actually is a pretty important thing, especially if you're out on the trail and you're like, you wanna capture something super quickly, say when you see one of your friends coming in, or maybe you forgot to hit record and you're already starting moving, you don't wanna wait too long for your camera. So once again, you guys, I feel like this DJI camera has the edge when it comes to that. However, watch this. When I turn the cameras off, this turns off right away. Takes a while, and then we got the whole beeping thing going on. In terms of them being user-friendly, both of them I felt like were fairly user-friendly. I will say the DJI Action 5 Pro, you have to download an app for this camera to work, and you got to connect this through the app. It's only a one-time thing. After that, the camera's basically good to go. You could delete the app if you want, but there is that to note. This GoPro is pretty much usable out of the box, and I would actually say in terms of easiness, so I just turned this thing on. You guys can kind of see, I don't know how much you guys can see, but it's pretty simple in terms of like user interface. If you press this thing right here, so we're gonna press this really quick so you guys can see. You can see you have a little bit of set things up there, and then you can basically kind of pick your different presets. You can actually save your presets. So basically if you find the setting that you like, you can save a bunch of presets on there. And as you guys can tell, not sure how much you guys can see, but yeah, those are my presets right there. Yeah, I actually think the GoPro Hero 13 Black interface, once again, is just a little bit more user-friendly. Now I'm gonna show you guys the DJI. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. I would say the interface is a little less user-friendly. So I'm gonna click on things, and then you kind of just gotta like pick and choose your frame rates and then the settings of the camera. If you want to change like the different perspectives, you gotta like adjust them sideways here. Sometimes I find myself like clicking on the wrong thing when I'm trying to get out, and I don't know, I would say just overall, I feel like the GoPro Hero 13 Black is probably gonna win when it comes to user interface between both of these cameras. The microphone is hands down better on the DJI, the internal mic. I actually have to shoot with the wind reduction off on the GoPro, and I use a windscreen on this. So yeah, I will say the audio on this DJI is pretty insane. Which one's gonna be my main camera in the future? I feel like I'm gonna keep both. Honestly, I feel like both camera quality is really on par with each other. I could definitely see us using both of these cameras cameras for footage, and actually we have a huge project coming up. The more cameras, the better. I feel like both these cameras put out similar qualities. I do like the stability as well as the colors a little bit more so on the GoPro. I love the audio on the DJI. I feel like they're both neck and neck. I like the interface a little bit more so on the GoPro. What did you guys think? Let us know in the comment section based off the footage which one you think was better, and also what's going to be your next camera. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this comparison video of both of these cameras. Once again, you guys let us know in the comment section. Stay tuned for more videos. And yeah, until next time, you guys, ride awesome. Phew.